Well, welcome back to Sourdough Day. We have pulled our dough out of the refrigerator. It's had a chance to rest and warm up to room temperature for about an hour. And now I'm pulling out my preheated Dutch oven. This Dutch oven is at 450 degrees, so be careful with it. It's really hot. If you're using a pot of whatever type, just be real careful. Make a little room here for the pot lid, that is, and then we're going to get ready to put our dough inside of the Dutch oven. So just turn the dough out. Be gentle. This has been sitting all night. And I'm just using a conventional steak knife here to do my cutting. The serrated blade of the steak knife has no trouble making a good score on the surface of this dough. Switch hands as needed in order to get a good clean cut. You want to get some good cuts. And the good thing about a round loaf is you can cut it really any way you like, as long as their cuts are fairly symmetrical, so that the dough expands in a symmetrical way. We're going to put the lid back on, and we're going to send it over to the oven. It's going to bake for about 25 minutes. And then we're going to pull the lid off and let it bake an additional 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so I've just set my timer for the bread going in the oven. I'm putting it for 25 minutes, and then we're going to pull off the top and we're going to let it brown for 15 more minutes. I have a cast iron Dutch oven that I use for my sourdough. I took the sourdough, preheated the Dutch oven, put the sourdough inside, scored it, covered it back up, and put it in the oven. This is another type of pot that I've used for baking. I've used this for years. This works great. Really, any pot that has a lid that has enough room for your loaf could do a fine job. It doesn't have to be an expensive pot. This one I bought probably 10 years ago, and it's been used for a lot of things, from pot roast to, gosh, for braising chicken, but I also use it for baking bread. If you have one that has a large bottom like this, you can either put a little flour in or a little piece of paper to protect the bottom to keep the dough from sticking at all. Put it in, preheat it, score it, put the lid back on, stick it in the oven. That's going to trap steam inside of the vessel, inside this pot, so that the steam steams your dough while it's baking. That's going to act just like our steam injected oven in the lab. It doesn't have to be an expensive pot, as I say, and if you don't have one already in the house, you could also borrow one from a friend, borrow one from a neighbor, find one at a yard sale. It could be really almost anywhere, any pot that has a lid. I think originally I paid about $35 for this one. I paid $39, I remember, for my cast iron one. The cast iron one's actually a very good bang for your buck, and it's a good investment if you don't already have one, because you can cook lots of stuff in it, but it's one of those things that don't be afraid just to borrow one for the time being, just to use it for bread. Anyway, we'll come back and take a look at the finished loaf. All right, so here we go. And another beautiful loaf of sourdough. Just came out of the oven, so it's really hot. So we got good browning on the bottom. Nice sound. This will have to cool now for a while. It's really hot. But looking forward to seeing your sourdough. Remember, keep it in a closed container 25 minutes, then pull off the cover. I pulled this cover off 15 minutes ago. It's still hot, but what that did was it trapped that steam inside, allowing this dough to stay soft, stay moist, and fully expand to its maximum volume while it's baking. Then once the crust starts to form, we pull the lid off and the crust gets fixed. And now the size of the loaf is fixed because it's been forming a crust. This should turn out to be a very nice loaf. Try yours out, post your pictures. We'll be looking forward to seeing them.